Coming to you from the Malace TV studios in Troy, Michigan, this is the Malace Cast.
All right, welcome back to the Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR. I am LJ.
And I am Sarah.
And today we've got a lot to talk to you about, but before we do, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, as well as our pages on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Sarah, how are you today?
Super dandy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing so good. I wanted to actually talk to you about the candidate experience in today's job market. So I don't know if you've heard, but there's been a lot of changes in the job market today. New technologies. We've talked about AI numerous times. But something I really wanted to highlight, because we've been seeing it a lot at our company, is the skilled trades and manufacturing and facility management industries and what they're currently experiencing right now in the real world.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Well, thank God for that.
This happens to be my day in and day out. So how can I help you?
Well, I want to know, in general, are you seeing a lot more skilled trades jobs out there? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, that's kind of our bread and butter, per se. We work with a lot of that. So naturally we see it. I did read an article the other day that was saying that more candidates more unemployed are staying unemployed for longer right now. Whether that's because the jobs aren't out there or because they're just not getting the interviews and things like that. But skilled trades are one where, man, if you've got that journeyman anything, right, or that certification, whatever it is, call me. Right. Because we've got something for you. It is one of those things where, we talk about college and your career path and things like that. And people often forget to just go into the skilled trades because, I think it was stigmatized back in the day, right, where it was oh, that's just because you can't make it. No, man, those people make a lot of money.
No, 100%. I think, probably a cause for people staying on some of these, unemployment and things of that nature is a misalignment of skills and, the jobs that are out there.
Sure.
There's plenty of people. I remember growing up, it was, you need to go to college or, you're not going to be able to be successful. And, now that I'm an adult and post-college, I'm realizing that was entirely false. Yeah. And but the problem with that is you have an entire generation that was basically brought up that way. Mm-hmm. And now companies I think there's 50% right now of skilled trades companies are having trouble locating, identifying, and hiring skilled candidates.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is that salaries and pay rates are going through the roof.
Yeah. It's a good time to be a journeyman electrician right now, or to have your EPA universal or those things. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was reading, they actually said, I believe it was somewhere between 14 and 20% of pay increases for skilled trades across the board, which is significantly, sometimes double, triple, even quadruple times higher than other professions. So,
yeah, a lot of those jobs you can't be replaced by AI or anything like that.
Right.
So you've got to have the hands-on and you've got to have the human element to it. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there and you can basically make your own paycheck.
Right. Well, and that's a big thing too. People are worried that AI is going to take your job, and I know for a lot of us, people in offices and in art and graphic design industries and in different industries that are on a computer essentially are worried about being replaced. Well, skilled trades, you need somebody there. Right. There are some things that a computer program simply cannot replicate.
Absolutely.
And the skills and the abilities of these journeyman skilled trades, men and women, certainly fall into that category. Mm-hmm. Right. And, I wanted to also kind of go through, for those people who are struggling finding a job or looking for work, what are some ways essentially that someone can make themselves more sellable,
Sure,
to their future employer?
One of the things I always say is make your resume not just a list of tasks that you have accomplished in your job, but make it show, I saved the company 64% by implementing this year over year. I cut down turnover by 13%. Show where you have basically earned your keep at that place. Because if you get that kind of a resume in front of you as a hiring manager, you're looking at that thinking, oh, I need this person here. They're cutting turnover. They're doing these things rather than just processed payroll, processed unemployment claims, et cetera, et cetera. So even for the trades and things like that, created a project that saved the company 30% year over year in energy costs or whatever it is, show those things on your resume and highlight what you're bringing to the table, not just the medial tasks that you do, but what you're actually contributing to previous employers and then what you can bring to the table to this place.
Yeah, quantifiable results. And I think we're going to touch on this a little bit later, but personally, one of my pet peeves when I'm looking at a resume is someone who just basically takes the job description and puts it under their experience, It's like, okay, I think this person just copy and pasted the literal job description and just said what the job was. I want to know what you did, and how it affected the company. Another thing is using keywords, using different resumes for different jobs. You don't have to have just one resume. And I sometimes I feel like that gets lost in translation. You should be tailoring your resume on the job that you want. It's okay to have 200 resumes. I mean,
that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but but the point is that you can have multiple resumes to submit to specific jobs that highlight how you can benefit that company specifically at that job that you're applying for.
Yeah, it's a kind of a running joke in here. Some of us believe in the cover letter and some of us don't. I am a person who thinks your resume should speak for itself. You shouldn't have to have a cover letter, but to each their own. But essentially, if you're letting your resume speak for yourself, those are the things that are going to really stand out. It's not just what you're doing day in and day out, but how you can help the company grow. People want to hire you to help the company grow in one way or another, whether it's in a leadership role or you're turning a wrench or whatever it is that you're doing. You need to show that you have that capacity, not just that you went into ChatGPT and said, make me a resume about a recruiter, and that's what you handed to the hiring manager.
Right. And personally, I don't really read cover letters at all.
No.
But what I think a more beneficial thing to do is to do a follow-up email or a follow-up letter and then take parts from that interview, what they were looking for. And in that letter, explain, hey, I think this is a great opportunity. I'd be a great fit. After talking to you about, XYZ problems you're having, these are some of the solutions I think I can deal with. And that's going to be much more effective than just saying, hi, my name is Bob and I'm really good at my job and yada, yada, yada. I don't know what else even goes on in cover letters because, like I said, I don't read them.
Yes. No, neither do I.
No.
But I like the email idea because that's going to come across to them personally, too, and give them a chance to read that when they're sitting at their desk, and they're like, oh, hey, Bob took the time to write this email to me about this conversation we had. Shows that he's invested in the opportunity.
And for all they could be interviewing, a dozen people. And by bringing back specifics of that interview, you're going to reignite some of the memories, hopefully positive memories that they had while discussing this with you.
Right.
So it's all good stuff. We talk about asking questions and doing research on companies. I always thought that was extremely important, making sure you have not only information about the company that you're applying for, but also asking your potential employer, what does success look like? What is the expectations for me 6 months in, a year in? What are your expectations and how do you view success and how do I achieve that? And I think those are all good questions to ask as well.
Yeah. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. The interview should be as much about you accepting that company as your new employer as that they are accepting you as their new employee. You should be interviewing them as well. Ask them, why is this position open? Ask them questions about kind of what you said. What does success look like? What have your most successful people done differently to make it work here? What are the things that you do to value your employees? Go to Tigers games, pizza parties, whatever it is that they find value in. Maybe it's work-life balance. Maybe it's, hey, we pay for your benefits fully, which would be amazing. But, it's to each their own and what each person values. And the good company is the right company is the one you want to end up at are thinking of these things and they have the answers to them. If you're sitting down in an interview and you're asking these questions and you don't get those answers, there's probably some red flags there.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah. So, it's very much about wanting them as much as they're wanting you.
Yeah, I agree. And, I also want to talk about some of the pet peeves that we hear from hiring managers. I put a list together. I'm sure you've experienced some of them. Kind of went over one of mine with the job description being in the resume. Is there one that you can think of offhand that really grinds your gears?
So for me, I see a lot of, I worked here in, like, for instance, if I was an accounting manager, like that's a, decent high level role, but it'll be like, did accounting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I gathered that. Let me know a little bit more. What platforms did you work with? Did you handle ER? Did you handle AP? All kinds of stuff like that. But I mean, and it transcends. You get a lot of that in skilled trades world where it's like, I'm a journeyman electrician. I do electrical work.
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
Please elaborate. So it's the opposite. It's the opposite of what I have. Something I am not a fan of is the, bashing your previous employer. Yeah. That just looks bad. Yep. Come up with something nice to say or don't say anything at all, basically.
Yes, I agree.
Poor communication skills. Someone who does a job or is skilled at their job should be able to articulate that. I get being nervous and that's fine, but if you're having difficulty just describing the ins and outs of what you've already done, that's definitely a serious red flag.
In an interview, when it's like, what questions do you have? And they have none.
No questions.
You got to have some questions, man.
Or goals.
Goals.
If what are your goals? You need to have some sort of goals.
Yeah.
It can be personal. It can be professional, whatever, but you have to be goal oriented.
Yeah. And so much of the interview process is nerve wracking. I get that. But if you have those questions pre-prepared, if you have those questions prepared, yeah.
That P is built into that word.
I get it.
It's incredible.
English.
Yeah.
But if you have those questions prepared, you can walk into it and you don't have to scramble like, oh crap, what should I ask them now? They're there with you. You should take notes while you're in your interview anyway, just so you have that stuff, because you're going to walk away and be like, wait, what did they say about this, this, and this? So
right.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of preparing yourself for an interview with the questions, with the background information about the company, because you should know who you're interviewing with.
Just going to say that. Yep.
Those little things, it's surprising to me how those little nuanced things are just so not done, and I like to conduct interviews, especially internally here, where I'll shift from just the work stuff to like, hey, what's your favorite dinosaur? And then it lightens the mood a little bit. I know not all hiring managers do that, but man, if a candidate did that to me, like, okay, what I really want to know is what's your favorite dinosaur? I'd be like, you are hired, and it's Triceratops, obviously.
Obviously. And I'm the same way. The number of times I've had somebody coming in for an interview and say, oh yeah, I watched your podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm like, oh wow, we're already 50% to this. I don't even know you yet, but you watched the podcast. Yeah. Probably got a good chance to
pick up some tips and tricks from my podcast that you watched.
Which podcast? Give me specifics, please. That's the second part of the question. And then finally, to wrap things up a little bit, obviously we're a staffing company and there's a lot of negative, you specifically are a part of one as well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a lot of negative information about staffing companies and we call them myths, and we've actually done a podcast debunking those myths. But I'd like to talk about some of the positives of working with a staffing company. And one of the first things that comes to mind is, there's more opportunities. And what do I mean by that? We're talking about hidden jobs. Now, these are jobs that aren't out on the market that nobody knows about. It's from us that we get these jobs from our clients that say, hey, I haven't even posted this yet. Do you have anybody? And you'd be surprised. I mean, you wouldn't be, but the viewers would be surprised at how many jobs are actually out there that aren't really out there. Do you see that often or?
Yeah. In relationships with our clients where we can say like, hey, I had a guy reach out to me. He's got 6 years of HVAC experience. He's done a mobile role. Do you have a spot for him? And they're like, yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of times that we just send somebody because we talk to them on the phone. Faster placements. You've got somebody who's in your corner, fighting for you, checking in on the hiring manager. The one thing about working with a staffing company is you're very rarely ever going to get no response to an application. So by having someone out there fighting for you and trying to get that feedback, good or bad, is another huge benefit. Personalized services, we always talk about staffing, recruiters at a staffing company being like your agents in sports. They're trying to get you the best on the best team with the most money. And so I've always tried to use that analogy as it's like, hey, most recruiters, at least recruiters in our company, are going to make more money if you're making more money. They're commission based, and their commission is based on how much money you're getting paid.
Yeah.
So you've got a group of people who are out there trying to get you more money because at the end of the day, they take home more money as well.
Right. And, one thing I always like to say to people is just jump on our website and see if there's anything on there that appeals to you. We work all over the country. We have all kinds of openings. If something's there, that application goes straight to the recruiter who is working on that. So that's going to be that expert in that role. And you're not just going to get parsed out by AI. Every day we go through hundreds of resumes in here to find the right applicants. Now, you might not be the right applicant, but you're going to get you are going to get eyes on your resume as long as you apply to it through our website.
100%. And then after you get the job, people forget about this. It's continuous ongoing support for you in your role. If you're having issues or you're having, problems with someone at the company or you name it, you can come up with a scenario. The recruiter in the staffing company is going to be there to address those without you having to get your feet muddied or right. whatever the saying is.
Well, having to have the hard conversation that gets a little awkward with your own boss.
Yeah, and just keeps you out of the fray. But yeah, so I think those are some great benefits, to using a staffing company. We invite anybody to reach out to us on our website, social media, or on our phone. We also do have a referrals tab. So if you know anybody who is going to be looking for work, feel free to send us their information or refer them to us. We do pay out referral bonuses if someone does get hired. All right, well, that's it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Malace Cast. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, as well as our pages on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR. Don't forget to subscribe now to Malace TV, available on YouTube, and we'll see you on our next Malace Cast.